Okay, it looks like we're live on Facebook now. We'll just give another second or so to make sure the video starts rolling.
Sure.
Um, but welcome to everybody who's here and to everyone who watches the video later. I'm just going to introduce myself and we'll get the conversation going. I'm Jennifer Beuthin. I'll be moderating today. I'm proudly from NLLI Season 4. And I'm the former general manager of the Orange County Employees Association. And now I stay home with my, we just figured out 15-month-old twins, James and Maya, who are 1. And Alvina, everyone should know you, but I think it would be great if you could just introduce yourself and maybe talk a little bit about where you are in the country. And
yeah. So hi, everyone. My name is Alvina Yeh. I go by she, her pronouns. I'm the executive director of the Asia Pacific American Labor Alliance. You may hear some feedback from my little baby over there who is 13 months and just loves to be on Zoom calls. But I'm broadcasting live from Washington, D.C.
And how is it going over there? How are you? How is your family? It's been just a crazy moment.
Yeah, I feel like it's been hard to process. And even though I'm in a regular therapy practice, finally, thank goodness, it just feels like there's a lot we'll probably all still be unpacking, sometime from now. I feel like I'm just compartmentalizing like what I need to address now in terms of like priorities and emotions, and then what are sort of general feelings of like dread and what's going to happen to this country and workers and our people for kind of like there's like a later section in my brain that I'm just trying to be in denial about a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, and there's so many different layers too. There's the personal, like just your everyday life shifting. There's yes, essential, but how that impacts you directly. There's your role as a mom, and then also your role as the leader of an organization that is, and maybe you can talk a little bit about Apala, leading in a moment where this COVID crisis since the inception has been shrouded in racism targeted at the Asian and Pacific Islander community. And so shouldering that, absorbing that, how, can you talk a little bit about Apala and how organization is kind of meeting that moment in the midst of all of this?
Yeah, and for folks that aren't aware, Apala, we are a constituency group of the AFL-CIO, one of 6. And we work to build power for Asian American Pacific Islander AAPI working people through economic, civil rights, racial justice, and immigration campaigns. It's interesting because we saw late February and March, we definitely heard about the cases in China and knew that it was there and started to see sort of anecdotally how people were avoiding Chinese restaurants, Chinatowns were becoming more deserted. And so we could see the impact of it before really shelter in place or quarantine really hit or before it really got real for many of us. And then when that started, it was just like we kept hearing more and more cases of like the xenophobia, the racism. I mean, like friends that live in areas like that are supposed to be progressive hubs like the Bay Area, a mom and her daughter getting yelled at and hearing racist things like while out for a walk, right? People just being sort of just approached and attacked. And then we started seeing hate crime reports come in through official channels. And I think in April there was something like 1,500 reported cases, and they were self-reported cases of hate crimes through this one community database. And again, these are people that feel comfortable reporting or know about the database to begin with. And so we just know that beyond that, there are probably so many more cases and untold stories of what's happening to our communities. So it was like dealing with the rapid response of that, in addition to the rapid response of what's happening on the labor front, with many of our folks being either frontline workers or being in industries that are completely been decimated by the economic impact of shelter in place. And then we went into May, which is Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. And so it was like the normal hubbub of all the things that we're trying to do to build awareness and talk about the AAPI narrative and what our people need, on top of all of the rapid response that we're still doing around COVID-19. So it's been a lot, but we've been fortunate. I've been fortunate to have lots of exposure and to be in good spaces with people and labor community and elsewhere to just sort of talk about what's going on in the community and how we can stand in solidarity. But it's a lot to juggle for sure.
Yeah, I'll bet. Can you talk about some of that specific work that you have right now? I know there's a relief that you guys recently put together, and anything else you want to highlight?
Yeah, so very like I think right when it all hit in late February, we released sort of like a narrative campaign around wash your hands of germs and xenophobia. You can download that poster on our website, apollonet.org/COVID-19. We also released a guidance for employers on just how to protect workers against discrimination in the workplace. You know, we heard anecdotally of people being like, well, I don't want the Asian nurse, right? Or things like that. And so workers are risking their personal health by being frontline workers, but also risking personal safety by having to deal with the racism and xenophobia too, right? So it's sort of a double whammy for our AAPI frontline workers. So we released that pretty early on. We've been doing a lot of different town hall series talking about anti-Asian racism, but also want to make sure that we're not talking about anti-Asian racism in a vacuum.
About this point, everybody.
Yeah, because we know that Black and Brown communities have been facing discrimination for forever in this country, and that understand. Hang on, just hold on to this. Sorry. Sorry. What do you want?
Yeah, it's been pretty inspiring to just jump in to see some of the work that you're doing in partnership with Black Lives Matter and lifting up the voices and the stories of African American communities and other communities of color who face this every day. And you posted a pretty and powerful essay the other day, sort of talking about that connection.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll say, like, obviously we've known about racial and systemic inequities that have disproportionately impacted Black and Brown communities and disproportionately affected in the Asian American community, like Pacific Islanders and Southeast Asians. And this pandemic has definitely underscored that. It underscored sort of the failings of capitalism that have made workers be sort of the sacrificial lamb so the rest of us can shelter in place safely, right? And we feel like it's important to talk about that history, to talk about not just what's going on in the Asian American community, but building that cross-racial lens about what's really going on in our community and trying to uplift solutions that impact everybody.
Yeah, it's so interesting. There's this, the whole discussion about what's happened to the media in the middle of all of this is a totally different topic. But one of the newspapers that just went out of business here in Orange County, one of the great reporters started sending out a newsletter. And this last week, he sent out something in honor of Heritage Month about a Japanese internment worker from Garden Grove in my community in 1944, I think, who went to, he was interned, he had a note about supposing to deliver lumber, and the guy who he was supposed to deliver it to didn't like what he said or something and shot him, and he was killed. And the man who shot him had to pay a $1 fine for misuse of government property. And then, we're seeing that same thing replay in the Black community now, where, you can get shot and killed for jogging while Black. And all of it's connected, and all of it's connected to capitalism and power and sort of making somebody else the other so that you can, gain a position and just really impactful, powerful work. Is there any stories of workers that you're really carrying with you in this moment as you navigate this?
I mean, I will say yesterday I was on this town hall. We're part of this coalition called Value Our Families that's talking about preserving and uplifting an immigration system based on love and family, which is under attack right now because this administration has made it clear that they want to do everything they can to ban and stop immigration unless there's some kind of economic profit around it, right? Mm-hmm. And we did this town hall yesterday, and one of the speakers was talking about how like their family had been separated, and due to immigration backlogs and all of that was just, it took them like years and years and years to be able to have everyone be connected. And once they finally were, like just how heartwarming but also heartbreaking it was that it took them so long to just be reunited. And I just, she had everyone on the call in tears, and that's still really sitting with me. Just in spite of all of this, families are still separated through legal backlogs. Families are still separated with, being in detention or children being in cages. On top of all of this, and I think especially being a new-ish mom, like that really hits home. It's hard.
Yeah, yeah, it's a lot to absorb when you really think about how that would feel.
Mm-hmm.
It's heartbreaking. We have a couple people from the NLLI community watching now: Betty Hung, Jimmy Slevin, Irene Lanzinger, Josh Downey. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Wondering if there's anything you can share that you're drawing on from your experience in the NLLI as you're going through this moment.
Yeah, I mean, I did NLLI. Oh, I forgot to shout out my year 5, the best year ever. Hello, quintessentials out there. I did NLLI very early in my career as executive director. I think it was within my first 6 months. And as a woman of color, I've always faced severe imposter syndrome about the work that I do. And I think it was really important for me in my experience in NLLI to sort of learn lessons around resiliency and around sort of standing in my own power and feeling comfortable, and also not knowing all the answers, but creating containers for those answers. And I think I've really leaned on that as of late, because in times of crisis, I feel like my staff are looking at me to have all the answers, and nobody has any answer right now about what the future is going to look like. But there's an opportunity for us to organize and to build and draw a vision for what we want our country to look like after that. And that's just sort of how we're trying to build and to do our work and to organize, and to not, at least for me, not feel too hung up on not knowing exactly what that's going to look like for us, or like not knowing exactly how we're going to get there right now.
I think that is such a challenge when you're a leader and everybody looks at you and thinks like all of a sudden, because you came into a position, you're supposed to know everything, because nobody knows everything. You're right. If there's something that you wanted to share with the NILI community, just some final words about what you want them to leave with about where you are and Apala is in this moment.
Yeah, I mean, I always am so heartened to be in NILI spaces, even if virtually I feel all the love emanating from the screen. I mean, I will say that we just launched our worker fund, so a lot of our community members don't have access to some of the government funds. If you're in a mixed status family, immigration-wise, if you're undocumented, there's a lot of social safety nets and things in the legislation that did not apply to immigrants. So we wanted to make sure to create a community fund for folks that were most impacted and might not otherwise have access to funds. So we just launched that. It's at apalanet.org/community fund if you want to help donate for that. If you know of a worker who could use some of that support, that link also has the application. And that application is available in language as well, to make sure that we're accounting for immigrant folks who might not be able to apply in English. But yeah, I think really just continue to create spaces for our community is really, really important. And I feel like every time I'm here, even for a brief moment, it's like, remembering to breathe, remembering all of Kathleen's lessons around mindfulness. I mean, I definitely lean on that a lot lately.
Yes. And there should be some information posted on the Facebook page too for the community fund. I think we did that the other day, so please go on there. We can't thank you enough for sharing a few minutes, and we're so lucky that Maisie came on too, and we get to see both of you. There's so much that you're carrying right now, and it's a joy for us to be able to connect with you and be inspired by you. And so thank you, and we look forward to talking again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.